Hey, hello. Welcome to episode number 72 of the People We Love podcast. I am Adam Choit. What's up? If you're new here, what I do is interview people from all walks of life, often comedians and other artists about their lives and careers. It's casual conversation, but I also ask everyone to highlight someone they love, someone who they admire, who influenced them, inspired them, and supported them. For more, check out peoplewelovepodcast.com, and the Instagram handle is the same, People We Love Podcast. And you can find me on Instagram as well, Adam Choit, my name, if you want to follow me as well. And remember to tap subscribe or follow on whatever platform you listen to podcasts on. And I've been saying it, of course, it's still true. 5-star positive reviews on iTunes are greatly appreciated as well. So, today's guest is comedian Grant Lyon. Grant spent most of his early life in California and recalls his mom telling him that she had 2 batches of kids. His younger sister Kelsey and his significantly older siblings, brother Blake and the eldest, Wendy. And Grant tells me all about their love and support, but also how he was a really smart kid, but also kind of a troublemaker too. Grant was his high school valedictorian, but is also pretty sure he led the class in times getting detention as well. We talk family, we talk comedy, and much, much more. So much to cover. Let's just do it. Here's Grant Lyon. So it's good to see you today, Grant Lyon.
Good to see you too, dude. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you for joining me on the Zoom here. How are you holding up during the apocalypse here?
I'm all right. You know, I'm actually appreciating the time to think and write and process and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, you were telling me before we started recording that you tore your ACL and you're actually in pain, which is not great.
Which is not fun. No, it is definitely not fun. But it is forcing me to actually, stay home and be responsible and work on stuff.
Do you think if your leg was 100%, you would be as productive as you're being?
I am a pretty productive person in general. I can show you right here. I am somebody that has goals on my wall all the time.
Yeah, he's showing me his board with his whiteboard with things written on it. Lots of words. It's full.
Yes, at the beginning of every year, I make goals in 5 different categories.
Wow.
Comedy, writing, producing, acting, and personal stuff. And so I do a lot of thinking in that week between Christmas and New Year's about reflecting on the year that has been and thinking about the year to come and making and setting goals. So I stay pretty productive all the time.
How long has that been a routine for, a yearly routine?
Probably for the last 7 years, something like that. And I'm, I think it's important to set lofty goals, but set reasonable goals, So I rarely accomplish every one of my goals, but I usually accomplish most of them, right? Which
Makes
is
sense.
kind of, that's where I want to be. If I'm finishing everything by June, well, then maybe
easy.
I'm not thinking big enough. And if I'm accomplishing 3 out of 12 goals, well, then it just feels like a shitty year. So, I'm usually pretty good about it. I try to set around something like 12 goals for the year professionally.
Do you care to share anything that's on the personal?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
I'm just curious. Because we'll get into the career stuff in a bit.
Yeah. The right now for the first time I was a college soccer player, and
that's right. It said on your website. More research I did.
I was always very in shape, and in the last 5 years, I've gotten out of shape. I just got to an age where I no longer. I'm not the age anymore where I can eat whatever I want and just stay the same weight, which
I know
for a long time. And so for the first time in my life, I set a goal of losing 15 pounds. I've never, ever thought about losing weight before. But now I'm okay, I need to actually be more active about this. Another personal goal of mine was to go camping multiple times this year. It's something that I used to do a lot, and I don't anymore. Another thing that I wanted, a personal goal, was reading 8 novels. Reading is something I used to do a lot, and I want to do it more. Things like that.
Yeah, I don't really go camping, and I don't read enough, but the exercise I've been okay with.
Yeah.
1 out of 3 I got going.
Yes, I've lost 8 pounds
That's
out
awesome.
of the 15 I wanted to lose. So I feel all right about that.
You are more than halfway there, my friend. Math.
Still work to do, but I feel good about it. It's the first time I've ever lost weight. I've just been on the steady uptick for the last like 5 years.
It must be hard though it is hard to lose weight when you can't really move around as well and do the cardio stuff.
So much of losing weight is just what you're eating.
Oh, of course, it's all nutrition and diet.
And so that's like, I've never thought about what I'm eating before. And that's one of the nice things about this like quarantine stuff is that we're all cooking more. We're all like, I'm having to make more conscious choices about like what I'm eating and what I'm putting into my body. And so like I've been eating way less carbs. I've been drinking way less beer. I've been doing all that sort of stuff that's helped.
Has it been hard to stick to that? Is it
at
tough?
times? I miss fucking sandwiches, dude. That's like the hardest thing has been sandwiches because I'm like trying not to eat bread and stuff right now.
Just think about what goes in the sandwich and just eat that. So you're kind of eating sort of the best part of the sandwich anyway.
You're eating an a la carte sandwich?
Exactly. Well, why don't we get into it? We'll get into your life, and you could tell me about being born and leaving the hospital and the drive home, and tell me what you remember from that, if anything.
Well, I was not born in the hospital.
Where were you born? You might be the second or third person who hasn't been born in the hospital that I've interviewed.
I was raised in a religion called Christian Science, and Christian Scientists believe that matter is not real, everything is spiritual, and as such, don't go to the doctor and don't go to the hospital really much. And so all of my siblings were born at home, just like I was. My mom, actually, this was a fun story. My mom, so she was going to have like a doctor or a midwife, I can't remember what, come to the house. And it was a freak. I was born here in Los Angeles, and it was like a freak lightning storm in the middle of August, and it knocked out, but it was super hot. It was super hot and muggy, but also lightning. And it knocked out all of the power on the block. The doctor got lost on the way to the house, and my dad got stuck in traffic trying to get out of work. And so my mom was just by herself in the house getting ready to have a baby.
Wow.
She called Southern California Edison, the like gas electric company, and was like, I'm having a baby by myself. I need you to get my power back on like right now. And they made our street the top priority, and they like had people working out there and got all the power back on. And my mom like wrote them a handwritten letter about, how grateful she was for their response, and they printed it and put the front page of their newsletter.
That's awesome.
Like that. Yeah, this is kind of funny. Like, when does anybody actually write a handwritten letter for a positive thing? It's always just like, I hate everything you're doing.
And you said you had three siblings, and two of them older. How old were they when you were born?
My sister's 11 years older than me, and then my brother's 9.5 years older than me.
Were they around with your mom when?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that, actually. I should ask that of my mom. I always just know that I know that there were no other adults around, but and then eventually my dad and the doctor got there before my mom gave birth, but she was certainly in labor for a while by herself.
Yeah, the 11-year-old and the 9-year-old were going to have to deliver you.
Yeah, weird. I never thought about it that way before.
Oh man, what about after that? What are some of your early memories, like pre-kindergarten? Like, does anything jump out at you from those early ages?
My very first memory was giving my younger sister a tour of the bathroom, which is hilarious to me because, like, the only thing you remember from very young are very important events, right? And so somewhere in my 4-year-old mind, this tour of the bathroom was like hugely important, right? I was like, this is worth remembering. My mom probably said something to me about like, well, when you're an older brother, you need to be responsible. And I was like, well, then in the guise of responsibility, I need to give a bathroom tour because you need to be responsible in the bathroom. So I remember like showing her the bathtub and being like, this is where we take baths. When you get out of the bathtub, mom will always call you a nudie cutie and then giggle to herself. And here is toilet paper. Make sure to always wipe. That's very important. You know?
How much older are you than your younger sister?
2.5 years.
So you were already potty trained by the time you gave this tour.
I was like 4, and she was like a year and a half or something like that. And I was like, you need this tour. It's important.
You were probably proud of yourself for the things that you had learned.
That's why I still remember it. Because I was proud of myself, you know?
You're always learning and you're always setting goals.
Yeah, seriously. It's just part of who I am.
So your oldest sister is Wendy, and after her came Blake, your brother, and then you, and then Kelsey, the youngest. And of course, these people will come in and out through the conversation.
Yeah, there's that big age gap. My mom legitimately still likes to say, like, I had 2 batches. I had 2 batches of kids.
She's proud of it.
Yep. Because Blake and Wendy are very, close in age. Then there's this huge gap, and then Kelsey and I are pretty close in age.
Gotcha. And what about some of your other early memories from like kindergarten, early elementary school? What jumps out at you? What kind of kid were you?
What kind of kid was I? Well, I was definitely like always a performer. I don't even know if this is a memory I have or a memory that's been told to me.
Sometimes it's hard to know.
Yeah.
Especially when memories are told when they're told early to you. You don't know. It's a blur.
Like one of the things my family loves to share about me is that when I was like 4 years old, we did a trip to Disneyland, and Disneyland has a stage that comes up from underneath the ground, and there's always like bands and things like that are on there. So it's like just a fun thing you can do that's not a ride at Disneyland. And so this band came up, and I was real into it, and I didn't ask anybody's permission. I just went and got on stage, like in front of the band, like not on because it was an elevated stage.
Right.
You could be dancing down on the bottom, and I got up onto the stage and was like dancing up there as like a 4-year-old, and like I got the whole crowd into it. I got like everybody like came up and was dancing, and I was just loving it. So yeah, that's like my mom always is like, that's how I knew you were going to be a permer, even
Makes
from
sense.
a young age. Yeah. But I also was like a weird kid, like in some respects. I remember, this probably goes along the like the same thought line as like the goals and stuff, right? I was like decently regimented, and so I remember I had a bunch of Hot Wheels, and I never ever played with them at all. I would line them up on the edge of my mom's bed and like make an outline of the bed with Hot Wheels cars, and then just stare at them and study them, and like not touch them or anything, but they all had to be like perfectly straight in a line, and then I would just concentrate on them very hard and like memorize their details. I don't know why.
Yeah, well, I mean, was it like your own personal like car show or something like that, or pretending they're in traffic? You don't even know.
I wasn't doing any pretending of it. I am sometimes surprised that I'm a comedian, because I don't think that I was like a wildly imaginative child. Like I had 2 stuffed teddy bears, and one of them I named Brown Bear because he was a brown bear. And then the other one had a red nose. And guess what I named him? Red Nose Bear.
That's not that uncommon for kids to name.
Really?
I guess I had fish named a blackfish named Blackie. And then I had another fish who swam on his side, and he was Wacky. Those were my 2 fish.
Blackie and Wacky? That's fun to say. That seems like a comedy team from the 40s.
Yeah. What about your relationship with your siblings when you were in like elementary school young? What do you remember from that? Did you guys fight a lot? Did you guys team up? Did you do tag team wrestling? One older sibling and one younger versus one older mixed tag team? How did that work?
I mean, it was interesting because there is such a big age gap, right? So, by the time I was, 7, they were already going off to college and stuff like that. 7, 8, 9, they were leaving for college.
Yeah.
So, it definitely was, my older sister has never had kids and never wanted kids because she felt like she already had to help raise a couple of kids with me and my little sister. And, I definitely was a kid that like would throw temper tantrums and things like that. Like I remember, I'd get put in the laundry room when I was throwing temper tantrums and stuff. One time, my sister put me in the laundry room and I just kept being like, I'm coming out. And she was like, no, you're not. And I was like, yes, I am. And I wouldn't like actually break the rules and come out. But then I just like kept banging my head against the door. And
trying to get attention and sympathy or something.
Yeah. And my brother definitely, there was like a time where, he could beat me at everything, and he made sure that I knew that. Like, where if you play like basketball with your dad, he's going to let you make some shots, and my brother's just blocking everything and making me so mad.
Yeah.
He's blocking every shot from a kid that's 3 feet shorter than him, and, then being like, how sweet it is to be as good as me.
Yeah. Oh, man.
I remember his trash talking. Oh, it is hard work, Maggie. You look so bad.
You remember all of it, the details.
Yeah, for sure.
What are you drinking there? I see you got some greenery in your cup there.
This is literally just water. I bought some lemonade yesterday, and it came with all of this like greenery in it. It's mint and like pine sprigs.
Yeah, that looks fancy.
It was very good in my lemonade, and so I've just been using it today to drink water out of until they all fall apart and I have to throw it away.
It looks like you could put like a goldfish in there. It looks like a little fish tank almost.
Yeah, my roommate was like, what plants are you trying to grow? And I was like, I swear it's not.
What kind of student were you in elementary school? Most people don't struggle all that much in elementary school, but you never know.
I was a good student for my whole life. And I think some of that, well, it's funny. I was a good academic student. I was a goof off who got in a lot of trouble as well, my whole life, So it was like this weird dichotomy where I was like good at school, but I also was like very disruptive, Now that I'm more mature and I'm an adult, I feel a little bit like guilty, because my mom would always say, like, maybe you don't need to pay attention to get good grades, but other people do, and you're affecting it for them. And, as like a 13-year-old, I was always like, ha, who cares? I don't, I'm doing me, baby. And now
he's holding up his middle fingers as he says that.
Yeah. But just now I'm like, man, yeah, I was probably kind of a jerk and like ruined it for other people.
Is that basically what you were? You just talked and mouthed off and cracked jokes?
Off all the time. Yeah, I was always goofing off. I would like sit across the room and make faces at other kids and try to get them to laugh, and like just always just trying to like make people laugh and just being social and wanting to talk all the time.
Yeah.
That was a big thing. I'm like probably, I doubt there's many valedictorians who also led their class in detentions.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
I think
I don't know if it was awesome, but like I was also doing like dumb stuff like pranks, and I remember I got like detention for like, the librarian left the library, and me and this other guy moved all the tables and set up a wrestling match in the middle of the library. Getting like detentions for stuff like that. And I also got detentions for, we didn't have like a uniform, but we had like a
dress code.
Like we had to wear collared shirts, like, but they could be any collared shirt you wanted to, but we just had to wear collared shirts, and we had to tuck in our shirts. And I hated tucking in my shirt so much. I was like, what does this matter? This is not going to make me better at school. And so I refused to tuck in my shirt, and I got detentions all the time for that. And
You're a
I
rebel.
never caved. Yeah, I never caved. I was like, nope, I don't care. I would do the thing where when a teacher would walk by, I'd roll up my shirt. And then as soon as they would walk by, I'd like unroll it and be like, I don't need this. So yeah, I got, but I also graduated with like a 4.4 or something like that from high school.
You must have constantly been throwing the fact that you got good grades in the faces of the administrators and your parents and
my mom
everyone.
was an administrator, and she was a middle school administrator, but every report card, we had the exact same conversation. I would get straight A's, and then in the comments, it would be like, Grant is disruptive and needs to like pay attention more and not distract the other students. And my mom was always mad at me, being like, look, you need to like take this more seriously. And I was like, what does it matter? I'm getting good grades. You ain't the boss of me. When I was a sophomore in high school, my social studies teacher tried to kick me out of class for the entire year. She was like, I don't want you in my class anymore. You can come at the end of class for 5 minutes every time, and you'll get the homework assignments. You do the homework. You can come for like tests and for things like that, but I don't want you in my class. Just stay up in like the high school quad. And
you must have loved that. You must have loved this.
I was like, this is perfect. This is perfect. This is just like another free period, but like a week afterwards. So sort of like for a week, I had like a free period, and then like the administration got wind of it and was like, you can't do this. Like he has to go to class. And so they made her make me come to class. So
where's this come from? Are you just bored and trying to entertain yourself? Are you rebelling? I
think it was probably a lot of bored, just trying to entertain myself. Because I even do that now as an adult, where I'm like, my family knows it about me. They were like, if Grant gets bored, he gets destructive, Like if I'm shopping in, a Nordstrom's or whatever, and I get like tired of doing it, I just start like putting shirts on the wrong racks on purpose and like doing stuff like that just to like entertain myself.
That's funny. I feel bad when I like don't fold the sweater right or whatever when they're doing. I feel bad for doing the opposite. Oh man.
Yeah, but like as long as I'm engaged, I'm fine, right? And that's why, like for me, when I go shopping for anything, I'm like, I know what I'm going for, right? I am not somebody that's good at just like going
browsing
with my girlfriend and like sitting around with it. It's like, I can do it for an hour, and then I start like, banging on all the dressing room doors and pretending that there's like a fire.
That's terrible and hilarious.
Yeah.
Are your siblings like this at all in any way? Were they straight A students and disruptive as well?
We've all been good students for sure. My brother, I'm the one that got like in trouble the most often. I would say my sisters were both pretty well behaved. My brother got in trouble bigger than I ever did. Like he got suspended for 2 weeks from high school at one point, and I never got suspended. My stuff was always like dumb, but it wasn't like nefarious,
Yeah.
My brother got suspended for like 2 weeks because he and a couple other people put X-Lax in cookies and put them in the dining hall. And,
oh no.
But the problem is they were using like a pill per cookie, and people were eating like 3 or 4 cookies. And so like a ton of people did not make it to the bathroom.
Oh my God. This is like, that's like a movie scene.
Yeah. It was like a real problem. And my brother, in his defense, actually didn't go forward with it. He was the one that had the idea and then was like, we can't do this. And he pulled out. But the 2 people that he was going to do it with went forward with it.
So why did he get in trouble? Just for having an idea?
Because he was still they said he was part of it. And I know actually one of the other girls moms like called the administration on behalf of my brother and was like, Blake should not be in trouble to the same degree, because my brother got the exact same punishment that they both got. And so, yeah, and like my brother was supposed to give like a speech at graduation they took away from him, and like all this stuff. Yeah.
Oh man, he's probably still a little. Was he bitter? Not bitter, but I don't know. He must be yeah. I mean, he got a raw deal.
Yeah, I actually, funny story, was dating a girl for a while, and we knew that our families like knew each other to some degree, right? Like our aunts are friends with each other, and on our first date, I was telling her that story, and she was like, "Wait, I know this story. Like, I'm pretty sure that my aunt was one of those other two people that he did that with." And she asked her aunt, and her aunt was one of my brother's co-conspirators.
Wow. So she got suspended too.
Yeah, for sure.
Were your siblings a positive influence on you when you were growing up?
Very much so.
I mean, I'm sure there are examples of that.
Were my siblings a positive influence? Yes, very much so. I looked up to my brother a lot. My dad moved away when I was like pretty young, and was still part of my life, but was I saw him. I would go spend like 6 weeks every summer with him, and that's pretty much it. And so my brother definitely became a father figure to me, for sure. Like the birds and the bees conversation came from my brother for me, that sort of stuff. When I threw a football, it was with my brother, not with my dad, that sort of thing. So, I very much looked up to him a lot when I was growing up, because there was that 9-year age difference. I was a pretty sentimental kid, and one of the hardest things for me, I'm very obsessed with Christmas as an adult, and I think on a deep-seated level, the reason that is true is because it was the one time that all of my family was together, right? Because my siblings went off to college and had lives and stuff like that. And so Christmas time was the one time that we were always together. And I was so sentimental when I was like 7, 8 years old. I'd keep a picture by my bedside of my siblings, and I would say good night to them every night before I went to sleep, and kiss them good night and stuff like that when they weren't around.
That's sweet.
Yeah.
Look at you.
Yeah, I'm a real queef.
And you said you grew up in Santa Cruz, California
I grew up actually in the suburbs of Los Angeles.
Okay.
I moved around a decent amount. I lived in the suburbs of LA till I was 13, and then I moved to a suburb of Chicago and lived there till 16, and then I went to Sacramento when I was just my junior and senior year of high school, and then I went to college in Santa Cruz. And I started doing comedy when I was in college in Santa Cruz, and so that's why a lot of people think of me as like being from Santa Cruz, because we always associate people from like where they started comedy.
Right, I've loved learning that. Yes.
Yeah, very much so.
That's funny.
So, yeah.
Well, I mean, it must have been hard to move around a lot.
Yes, but I think it's one of the reasons that has allowed me on like a psychological level to pursue comedy, because I don't feel tied to any one place, right? Like I don't really have a home anywhere. I've in my whole life, well, I lived in one house till I was 7, from 0 to 7, but that hardly counts because I don't remember it. And then since then, the longest I've lived anywhere in any one place is 4.5 years. So, I just don't feel like I have, this sense of home. Home for me is like the people that I'm with, which sounds hokey, but is like, I don't mind being on the road for comedy because I'm used to like making new friends and, I switched one school from 6th to 7th grade. That's when I moved to Illinois, was to start 7th grade. And then I moved in the middle of high school, those are like hard ages to like move and know zero people.
Yeah, I would think so.
I've also made some like great friends. Like I am still good friends with a few people from my like 7th grade class, you know? So
Did you have enemies or people that you didn't get along with besides administrators and people people of authority in school growing up of any age? Did you have fights at all or anything like that?
No, I was not really much of like a fighter at all. I mean, I was certainly a guy that got into fights. I'm somebody that like doesn't back away, but like I don't know, fights were always like then you go, all right, we're cool now.
Yeah.
And then move on. Like I think that's one of the nice things about guys, right? Is that we don't really hold on to it for that long. So like there were certainly kids in my class that I got in fights with, but then I was still friends with them.
Yeah, that's normal.
Yeah. I don't have anybody that was like a real, I mean, yeah, authority was my biggest problem. And beyond that, I was fine. You know, I have also like been arrested multiple times as an adult and stuff like that. So,
do you care to share for what?
It's always been for the same thing, and that thing is fireworks. I've been multiple times. I love doing fireworks, man. And yeah,
for July 4th or for
just any time. Yeah.
You just love fireworks, huh?
I just love fireworks. I used to drive across state lines to buy a bunch of like big fireworks and bring them back. Yeah, I mean, the first time I got arrested, it like made sense. I was like drunk and I'd had a bad day, and I was like doing Roman candles in the middle of the street at like 2 a.m. shooting them at cars.
Oh man.
Yeah, but I was like drunk, and then the next time I got arrested was like, and that was just that first time was just like a random. We'd had a party at my house, and I was like not ready for the party to be over, so I was like, let's do some fireworks. Let's keep this party going. And then the next time that I got arrested was so dumb. It was 4th of July, and I had gone out to my car to get the fireworks I had in my car, in my trunk. And I was parked like half a block away from the like house that I was like at a 4th of July party at. And I had too many fireworks to like fit in my bag. And I was like, who gives a shit? I'm walking half a block. I'll be fine. And so I like take all these fireworks out of my trunk, close the trunk, and step up onto the sidewalk and literally bump into a police officer that just happened to be walking down the sidewalk. Like, how terrible luck is that? And I'm like, what? I'm caught so off guard.
These are road flares.
Yeah, and he was like, I remember this guy, like, the people that arrested me that first time were like cool and like ended up letting me go. This guy was like, I bumped into him and I was like, oh, and he was like, take a seat, son. And I was like, can't you just take the fireworks and let me go? And he was like, oh, I'm gonna take the fireworks. Take a seat. And he like he handcuffed me.
What
and
a dick.
That's what I mean. I'm like 25. I'm not even doing the fireworks, right? I'm just getting them out of my car, and he handcuffs me and puts me in a cop car and all this stuff. And it's like, really? Was that necessary? I had to go to court multiple times for that one. They charged me with a felony.
Wow.
They charged me with a felony, and I had to get a lawyer to like get it knocked down to a misdemeanor.
What a dick, and what a waste of time for everyone, to be honest with you.
Well, and it's like also on 4th of July. Like,
right.
I'm not the only one doing this.
You should have been like, what would George Washington, he would want you to let me
just
go.
Was so silly.
I hope that you know what the hell you're doing with the fireworks, though.
Oh, yeah, very much so.
You're not afraid of anything. You don't strike me as someone who has a lot of fear.
I am definitely not. Like, to a point that I probably get myself in trouble. Like, I wish I was a little bit more afraid of stuff.
Are you afraid of anything? What scares you?
Physically, I am not afraid of anything. And I've even tried to write a bit about this, and I've never been able to get it to work because, like, physically, I'm not afraid of anything. Emotionally, sure. You know, like, oh, I'm terrified of ending up like my father. Like, yeah, sure, I have fears like that, but, like, physically, I don't have any. I feel weird. Like, my roommate has a joke about me about a huge-ass spider landing on my shoulder and me just going, huh, look at that. And then just like brushing it off super casually.
Well, you like animals, maybe. You're an animal person, are you?
Sure. My ex-girlfriend said a thing about me where she's like, anytime I catch you checking out something that's not me, I'm never worried because every time it's a dog. I'm like, oh, look at that dog. It's never another woman. It's always a dog.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good work.
Yeah. So
what do you
why do you say I haven't heard that? So we just met. This is our first time meeting right here on this podcast. That's a pretty bold thing to say, like 30 minutes into us talking, is that I don't seem like somebody that has any fear. What gives you that indication?
Well, it doesn't sound like you fear getting in trouble. It doesn't sound like you fear getting in fights with people. It doesn't sound like you fear putting yourself out there with other people socially.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think it's true, but that's an interesting observation that you made pretty quickly. Very astute of you.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right, I should leave on a high note. It's been fun. Yeah. I made my point. No, why don't you tell me about college and discovering stand-up comedy?
Yeah, so I went to college to, like, my main focus when I went to college was playing soccer. I wanted to go to a good soccer school and be on a real competitive team. And UC Santa Cruz was a program that was coming up at that time. So comedy was not a thing that I'd ever thought about doing professionally. Quite frankly, stand-up wasn't a thing I even knew existed. My parents weren't people that had, like, you know, old George Carlin records or anything like that. I didn't, you know, I was allowed to watch 2 hours of television a week growing up. I could pick an hour and I could watch the hour that my sister picked. And so it just wasn't part of my, like, cultural experience at all. And when I got to college, my freshman year roommate played a Mitch Hedberg's first album for me, and it, like, blew my mind.
I bet.
Like, yeah, just the fact that, like, this is like a guy's job. Like, he just gets to make people laugh, you know? Sure, I was like a goof off, and I was funny for that reason, but it wasn't like, half the time I was like being funny, I was doing it because I was like quick with a Simpsons quote or quick with like a Monty Python quote. It wasn't me saying the stuff. It was me like quoting other funny things. And so when I heard Hedberg, I was like, man, this is super awesome. And so I memorized all of that album, and I would just say it to friends all the time. And enough people were like, man, you should like try this for real, that finally I started writing my own jokes. And for the first like 6 months that I was like writing jokes, I had Hedberg's voice in my head. I was writing jokes for Hedberg.
Every comedian I talk to seems to have that, where when they start, they're always doing an impression or thing with a specific comedian in mind.
Sure. And it was very much so. And then, you know, the more and more I did it, the more and more my own voice started sort of getting into my head, to the point now, if you watched me on stage and I told you that Hedberg was a huge influence for me, you'd be like, are you a maniac? Like, you are, I'm absolutely nothing.
I've seen you perform, and Hedberg would not be someone that I recall.
Like, yeah, exactly.
You're not like quick setup punchline type.
I don't tell like short punchline jokes at all. Like, not at all. But he's like the reason I became a comedian. And I think sometimes there's probably some truth to, like, you end up really liking something that is different from you, right? Because like people that do like my style of comedy, maybe I can like see it coming a bit. But someone like a Hedberg, I'm like, man, I have no idea how his brain works. And that fascinates me.
Right.
You know?
So when you dove into comedy at college, is that you kind of just got into it and you've been at it since then?
Yeah, my first year, you know, I don't know if you have, like, I tell people I started comedy at one date, but in actuality, I started dabbling like a year earlier than that. And that was because, like, so I started, when I first started doing it, I was performing. The first time I ever told my own jokes was on a tour bus in front of my college soccer teammates, and then it got to the point where I was like telling jokes at house parties in college where like they would turn off the music and someone would be like, everybody shut up, Grant's going to tell jokes for 10 minutes. And I would stand on a couch or stand in front of a couch and tell jokes for like 10 minutes at a
Did
party.
You have a microphone?
No.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. Were some people who didn't know you at the party be like, what the fuck is this? What's happening?
Yes. But I always did it at parties where I probably knew at least 50% of the people.
Right.
And all of those people were like, Grant's super funny. This is going to be great. And so the other people who didn't know who I was kind of fell in line, right? There was like a critical mass of people that wanted to see me do that the people that were like, what the hell is this? were enough of a minority. They never said anything, That's
cool.
But I was like enough of a clown that like when anybody was like heckling me at these parties, it didn't feel like heckling. I didn't know what heckling was. It was just like my buddies piping in and then me giving them shit back.
Right.
Like it just was like fun.
Do you consider like those shows some of your favorite, for lack of a better term, gigs? Like,
I guess. I mean, it was fun to perform in front of my friends, right? And then when we were on soccer trips, like every time we were on a road trip, I would get all the people together into like a hotel room or like the conference room, and I'd tell jokes for like 15 minutes.
And did you keep developing new material for them?
Yeah, I just kept writing. Well, that's the thing. It's like that stuff now where I'm like, boy, that was not good. But they were all my friends and they wanted me to succeed anyways. So they were like laughing at me being dumb.
As long as they're laughing.
But I think I probably needed that, like,
push.
Yeah, the like ease into it. I don't know that I would have had the courage to just go sign up for an open mic. I don't think I even knew that was like how you did it, right? I just like it was performing for my friends a bunch, and then it was like my friends being like, there's open mics on campus. You could go try that. And so the first like time I ever went and performed for a group that wasn't just my friends was like me going to an open mic on campus. And it wasn't even a comedy open mic. It was like a whatever open mic, right? And you got 5 minutes to do whatever you wanted. And I followed somebody doing like real dark poetry. I was like,
that's great
for 5 minutes.
But that's probably good. It's probably like a little bit of a relief, a comic relief from the poetry.
Yeah.
Did you do well at that open mic? Do you recall it at all?
I crushed. And I remember running the entire way back to my apartment. Like I was just so excited. I ran. And that one, like that felt like my first real show, I guess, because everything else, I never really even thought of it as a show. I just thought of it as like making my friends laugh.
Yeah.
That was like the first time that I was like, oh, I was on a list of performers. And every other show I did before that too was just me. Right? There was nobody else performing. It was like me getting everybody into a hotel room and telling them jokes for 15 minutes and then be like, all right, later, everybody. And then us going back to our room, and the house party just became a house party again.
Right.
There wasn't another performer. And so that was like the first time I was ever like on a lineup. Right. And like, there were people there that weren't there for me and stuff like that. So that really felt like my first show.
Did your siblings know that you were like doing the comedy thing, even just the tour bus and the hotel room and the house party thing? Did they catch wind of this? Did you tell them about it? Did they ever see you?
They certainly saw me early because I wonder if I told anybody. I'm not sure I told anybody like that. So that was my whole sophomore year of college. And I didn't really tell people about it, but I went home to Sacramento for the summer. And one of the comedy clubs in Sacramento had an open mic every Wednesday. And I started going to that every Wednesday. And my sister came to watch me perform at that. And I don't know that my mom did, but my sister certainly came a couple of times. And so, people, I think I started telling people like that summer.
Do you remember any of the material that you wrote and
Oh,
performed early on? Was it blue?
yeah.
Was it dirty? What kind of stuff
No,
did you?
it wasn't dirty at all. I was never dirty. I'm still not dirty.
Yeah.
This is just not how my brain works. No, I mean, remember I told you that I was like super Hedbergian
Right.
there at the beginning. So I remember an early joke that I wrote was, why do we call blonde hair blonde? Like we call black hair black. We call brown hair brown. Why do we call black? I've never referred to anything as blonde other than hair. It's yellow. It's yellow hair. I've never been like, dude, slow down. That light is blonde. I've never been like, man, I'm not gonna fight Tommy. He's a blonde belly, you know. Yeah.
You don't use that one anymore, I'm guessing.
Nope.
I bet not.
But that's like a very Hedbergian like
Sure.
observation, like a weird random observation.
No doubt, it's in that vein for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying it's good like his stuff, but that was definitely that was an early joke that I remember telling.
What did you study in college? And I know you were playing soccer, but what were your plans? What did you think you were going to be doing like after college, and what were you studying? Where were you at?
I hadn't really thought about what I was going to do after college. I was a double major, history and environmental science. And, you know, a lot of my teammates went on to play professional soccer or become coaches or that sort of stuff. And I wasn't sure what I was going to do. And it wasn't until my senior year of college where I was like, oh, I need to like think about what I'm doing after this. I think I'm going to really like actually make a go of comedy. That was like the first time that I like committed to being like a comedian, you know, as a career, as like a path. Because before that, I was just like, I'm being a college student and I'm like studying, but I don't know what I'm going to do after this. You know, I mean, that's the $1 million question, right? For every college senior is, what are you doing after this? And I think most of them don't have a plan.
And what did you articulate that out loud to your family and friends, that decision that like, I'm going to do comedy, and how did they react to that? It
definitely, I feel very grateful and lucky to have a loving, supportive family, because I know a lot of performers that do not. And, you know, my dad, I think there was part of my dad that always wanted to be a creative person and never did. Though during my childhood, my dad worked as like a professional photographer a bunch. So he found some creative stuff, but it was like a part-time thing for him. And so me committing to like being a comedian, my dad was like on board. You know, my dad's has never been a guy that's like been great at like calling you on the phone all the time. Like that's just not how he shows love. But he is a guy now that will like drive 5 hours to watch me perform. You know,
that's cool.
He lives in St. Louis, and it's like, I'm in Indianapolis. I was doing this like competition in Indianapolis once upon a time. My dad drove like 5 hours, watched me in this competition, and then drove 5 hours back that night.
Wow.
You know, so it's like that's how he shows his like support and love.
Trying to make up for lost time.
Yeah. And you know, my mom for a while was on the spectrum of stuff, still very supportive. But you know, there definitely was like a time in my 20s where she was like, I totally think you should do this. And then when it doesn't work out, like you'd be great at law school.
Yeah, hedging her bets.
Yeah. So it was like, it was still supportive, but it was like I expect you to fail. I will be here when you do. And I will still love you. And I think you'd make a great lawyer, you know?
Does that drive you at all to succeed when people doubt you at all? Or it doesn't even seem like you care.
No, I don't.
You just love comedy.
Yeah, I really, you know, I am somebody, you know, I think some comedians feel like they don't have any other choice, right? And I'm somebody that's always felt like I have a bunch of other choices and could succeed in a lot of other things. And I don't say that with arrogance. I'm just somebody that like, if I work hard and I commit to something, I'll be decent at it. And having that choice has always, I think, freed me a little bit. That sometimes people comment on like, oh, you're a pretty positive comedian, right? A lot of comedians are like depressed and negative, and I'm a pretty positive comedian. And I think some of that is because I'm like, well, I'm choosing to do this, so I might as well enjoy the journey, right? If ever I fall out of love with it, then I'll just do something else. But I still love doing it. So, and that's not to say like, boy, I get frustrated and pissed and depressed sometimes about things not going the way that I want them to do. I'm not above any of that sort of stuff, but it
doesn't consume you. It doesn't consume you.
And it gives me perspective where it's like, all right, well, this stuff that like makes it hard is also going to make it feel greater when I accomplish the things that I want to accomplish.
Life is twisted like that, huh?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
And what about after college? Did you move to Los Angeles? Where did you go from there?
I stayed in the Bay Area for a while, and I'm really glad I did because the Bay Area is a great scene to develop in.
I've heard, yeah.
Yeah, where are you? Where'd you start?
I'm not a comedian. I'm not a stand-up comedian, but
you're not at all.
No.
Oh man,
I'm just a fan.
That's awesome. That's cool.
But I'm from New York, from Long Island originally.
Okay. And yeah, so I was in San Francisco for maybe like 4 years after college performing, and I just felt like I'd accomplished what I could accomplish from San Francisco, and so then I made the move to Los Angeles. It's weird to think about because I still think of myself as a San Francisco comedian because that's the scene that I came up in, but I've been doing comedy in Los Angeles now longer than I ever was in San Francisco.
Right.
Weird. Yeah.
What do you remember about when you first came to LA and started doing comedy, some of the challenges and things that came along with that?
The biggest challenge is setting your ego aside, because in both New York and Los Angeles, nobody cares what you accomplished before you got there.
Right.
Unless you're like already famous, like it. The reason I moved when I did is because I realized that I wasn't being pushed in San Francisco anymore. I had gotten to the point where, in a scene like San Francisco, and in most scenes like that, you sort of rise to the top of the scene as much a product of you getting better as the better people moving away, right?
Yeah, I gotcha.
It sort of creates these like almost classes, right? It's like, this one class comes up together, they get really good, they move to LA, New York, and a new class comes up and kind of takes their spot. And so I had gotten to be, a top guy in the San Francisco scene. Not the top guy. There were certainly people that were still, above me, but I had gotten to that like upper echelon of the San Francisco scene. And so I ended up being like, I was oftentimes one of the better people on a show. And I didn't think that I was taking it seriously enough because better by comparison doesn't mean good, right?
Right, yeah.
And I just felt like I was like getting up there and like maybe pissing away stage time some and like not writing as much as I should and stuff like that. I just felt like a top dog. And I was like, okay, I gotta leave. If that's what I'm doing here, I gotta leave. And like, in the first like few months of moving to LA, I had to follow Chris Rock on a show. I had to follow Martha Bamford on a show. And I was like, yeah, this is going to fucking push me for sure.
But that's awesome that you got those opportunities. That's amazing.
For sure. Yeah, no, I feel very grateful for it. But it just was like, okay, like this is why I'm here. Like you got to bring it, I can't just like get up and like goof off for 10 minutes on stage. You got to bring it.
Do you see people staying within like the San Francisco scene or a smaller scene that's not LA, New York for too long? I guess some people do that by choice because that's where they live and that's what they want to do and they're content where they are. But do you see people staying sometimes in the scene in a certain smaller scene too long to their detriment?
Well, I mean, I think everybody has their own path. So do I think they might be farther along in a comedy career if they had moved sooner. Yes, I think there is certainly people like that. But also, who's to say that, like, that's what you have to do? If you're happy living in a town and doing that sort of stuff, then, like, it's not my place to say that this is wrong or you overstayed your welcome. If that's what you want, then that's what you should be doing.
Sure.
You know? Would they be more famous if they left sooner? Probably, but, like, I don't know. I'm at the point now where I'm like, I'm doing this because I love it, not because I'm trying to be famous.
Yeah, everyone has different goals and priorities and things that make them happy.
Yeah,
for sure.
Totally.
But yeah, because that's a pretty smart or self-aware observation you had of yourself, that you started to, I guess, become complacent in a sense.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah. How long did it take you to sort of realize that you were becoming sort of that way in the San Francisco scene? Was it like you were being that way for a week, or was it like a few months went by and you're like, I gotta get out of here? It was gradual.
I would say it was probably like 6 months.
Yeah.
I think I had probably been getting complacent for like 6 months. And I don't know if there was any one specific moment, but it was just like, I think I'm doing this. You know, I like looked back on some shows over the previous month and been like, what am I doing? Like, why am I just like getting up there? And I don't know, ego is not a good thing for any part of life. You know, people don't accomplish great things, I guess, because of ego. I mean,
I was going to ask, because it sounds like you were still getting laughs and you were having success, but certainly. You weren't getting fulfillment.
Yes, I was still doing well on shows, but I just like looked at the stuff that I was writing and I was like, this isn't good. This is like, or this is 50% there, and I've just been coasting on this joke is maybe relatively good, but it's like there is 30 to 50 more % I can do with this joke, and I'm just not doing it.
Yeah.
You know? So it just took sort of that like realization of like, oh, all right, like if this is the stuff, you know, and again, it's like, what do you want? It's like, I wanted to do stuff on TV. I wanted to do stuff. It's like, all right, well, I'm not going to get that from San Francisco, so I got to leave.
Yeah, well, tell me about it. Tell me about some of the what happened after the early days in LA and your journey.
You know, I think a big thing that changed my life and my career was there's a big comedy festival in Atlanta called the Laughing Skull Festival. And you know, I've just been doing comedy for, I don't know what, like 9 years at that point. And I just went out there and I just did a great job and I really kept it locked in and I won that festival and there was like a bunch of industry there and it got me a real good manager that I still have today. And it just, you know, that got me into like winning that festival, got me to be a new face at Montreal, which got me like my first TV set and all that sort of stuff, you know?
That's great. What are all the high school and school administrators think of you now?
It's funny because I went to like private schools always, not because we were wealthy, but because my mom always worked at the private schools, so we would get to go there for a pretty steep discount. And I think probably if I look at like the people I went to school with, I think half of them are jealous of what I do, and half of them think it's real dumb what I do. You know, honestly, because I think some people are like, what? Why? Like, I'm making money. What are you doing? You know, like, that's dumb. You don't make any money. You don't, like, you live with roommates and you're in your 30s. Like, gross. You know? I think some of them think that. And then other of them think, man, I wish I had had the courage to, like, do what I really wanted to do. You know, I became a lawyer because that's what my family said I should do, and that's how I was going to make money. But I didn't want to be a lawyer.
Right.
You know? So, yeah.
What would you say is your like your sort of, I mean, maybe you wrote them down, your sort of longer term or even shorter term goals, dreams, aspirations, because you act also.
I do, yeah. But to me, it's funny. I remember having an acting teacher one time say to me, the only person I've ever had in my class that uses acting as a means to an end, right? I want to be a comedian. Acting for me is like getting people to notice me.
Right, getting out there.
Yeah, I would love to be at some point in my career where I can I want to do stand-up on my own terms, right? Go into a market and be able to sell 500 tickets and do like a cool little theater show or that sort of stuff where people are there because they wanted to see me. They saw my name, Grant Lyon, and they were like, that guy's funny. I want to come out and see him. That's the ultimate goal.
You just want to, tour and just do what, bigger and bigger venues? This is kind of
and have people come because they know what I do. You know, right now I'm touring anonymously. People come and they think I'm funny, but they don't see my name and come and want to see me do what I do.
Right.
I would love to be at the point where I have, because most people would describe my comedy as like a little bit more intellectual. And, you know, sometimes that's hard if I'm like performing in like Oklahoma on like a Saturday night where people are like, just talk about your dick. And I'm like, that's not really what I do. You know, it'd be nice to like be able to go into a market and have people come out because they want to see a little bit more of my style of comedy.
Right. And I could see how having TV credits and being on television could help with getting attention and being known, of course.
Yeah, for sure.
That's cool.
I mean, there are rarely people now that are famous just from stand-up, right? I mean, there's a few, you know, guys like Jim Gaffigan got famous with stand-up, or like Dane Cook or Ali Wong. Like, they exist, but like there are so many more of those people that like got into movies or TV, and then that made people pay attention to their stand-up. You know, they were Zach Galifianakis was a comic for 20 years before he was in The Hangover, and nobody gave a shit about his stand-up. I shouldn't say nobody. Like, comics and comedy nerds.
I follow what you mean.
Yeah, and it wasn't until The Hangover that now he's like can actually do stand-up on his own terms.
No doubt. And what do your siblings think of where you're at now in these days?
They're all super supportive and loving and positive, and I feel like I wouldn't be where I am right now without their love and support, honestly. Like, when I am feeling down, my siblings are who I call, you know? When I, you know, like, for instance, like, my album came out at the end of March. And, like...
That's awesome. Congrats.
You know, thank you. I appreciate it. And, you know, part of me was feeling like a bit woe is me because I had to, you know, this is like an album that I've worked on. It's like, you know, 9 years of material going into this album, and like all of like the blood and sweat, and like every time that I performed at this dumb bar for $200 and drove home by myself instead of hanging out with my friends, you know, it was like all of that. And I had to cancel all of my album release parties and stuff.
Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah, I felt just real bummed out about it. And my younger sister, sent out an email to like a ton of people and just being like, look, Grant had to cancel, and so much. I've watched him work so hard at this for so long, and he spreads a lot of joy, and it would be amazing if you guys like bought his album. And so many people, I mean, she was sending these to people I've never met before. Like, all of this like community of hers, and it was just like such a loving thing to do, you know?
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sucks because, like, you know, I know you're in it for the comedy itself and the laughs and you get joy out of it. But I think you have to celebrate the successes too, and to have that taken away sucks.
Totally. Yeah. But, all of those people helped make my album #1 on iTunes and all that sort of stuff. And, it was like, okay. And I did this thing, my ex-girlfriend had an idea. She was like, well, you can't do an album release party, but what about doing something digitally? And so I had this idea of well, my favorite part of an album release party is getting my friends to perform, and then those friends tell stories about me or make fun of me or something like that. So I asked a bunch of my comedian friends to make a video and doing whatever they wanted. Just you can make fun of me, you can say something nice about me, you can tell a story about me. And I was expecting for 10 people to send in a video, and I got over 40 videos.
Wow.
From comedians, and I put together this whole compilation video, and it was a real great way to have a celebration, even though I couldn't do something in person.
Is that available online? Is that a public thing?
It's on YouTube. Yeah,
awesome. I'll check that out for sure. And your album.
Yeah, thanks, man. That video is called, I think, Grant Lyon's album release party.
Awesome. Well, on that note, I feel like I've taken up enough of your time, plenty of it, and I appreciate it for sure. Why don't you tell people where they could find you, follow you, and you could tell them where to buy the album again, and send out that YouTube link again as well.
Yeah, I'm on Instagram and Twitter at GrantLyon1, the number 1, and website's GrantLyon.com.
Lyon with a Y.
Yeah, with a Y. And my album is called Scheduled Fun Time. And it's legitimately everywhere. It's on Pandora, Spotify, Sirius, iTunes, Google, Apple Music, all that sort of stuff. So
that's great.
Scheduled Fun Time. Check it out.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate the time again. It's been awesome.
Yeah, it was fun.
Looking forward to checking out more material. Hopefully I get to see you perform live. I remember live comedy. I remember Humans in person. I remember those things.
Yes, I would love to do it at some point.
Yeah, I'll see you in 2022 or 2021 if we're lucky.
Yeah, seriously.
Oh, man. Well, have a good night, man. I appreciate it.
Thanks, dude. Thanks for having me. Appreciate
Got it. Later.
So there you have it. My conversation with Grant Lyon. Those college house parties sounded like fun. Dude would just stand up on a couch and do comedy for his friends. I could really picture it. For real, Grant's a funny dude, and I definitely appreciate his time. For everything about this show, of course, head to peoplewelovepodcast.com. And I think that's about all I got today. Hope everyone is staying safe and well and healthy. And maybe life will resume somewhat as close to normal as we can get it to be soon. Again, thanks as always, and let's talk soon. Peace.